Well, the milk went sour, did it? Remember the glass of milk it all started with? Milk went sour. So, Donald, you decided to ignore the warning. And now you've been convicted and sentenced. I wonder, do you think that's all? Because there will continue to be problems for you until you make good on your promise to God that you made in 1982. And I would suggest that if you made him other promises, you keep those too. But this one is coming to light because I had really wanted you to be president in 2020. You had done so many good things until the COVID nonsense happened. And God said, no, remember? And then he told me why, and then I remembered things. And now, when I've had time to really examine things the way they really happened back then, I don't want you back in there. Because I think a lot worse can happen than how you ruined this country financially because of succumbing to the fear of the whole virus. Anyway, how about that? We'll see what God is going to do. Let's see what God lifts out from the bottom of the swamp that you dropped there. That's why people are mad at you, not because you're a crusader, but because you're a hypocrite. This is going to be interesting. I can think of one thing that you made with your 6 best black guy friends. The minor girls, like myself, that were in that movie, or movies, I should say, were drugged as well. The madam wasn't, but she was also pretty much naked, and everyone in front of the camera was naked. You and the camera guy weren't. You were behind the camera. So, of course, you weren't naked. But who was behind that camera with you? I know you were. Just like at the party. Same face, same guy, same voice. Anyway, I remember every time I resisted participating in the scenario, letting a guy stick his male member in my mouth, because he was choking me too. Someone behind the camera would imply that my younger brothers would get hurt, would get harmed in some way. And so I'd cooperate again until I got choked again. And then, I would bring up my little brothers again. And I thought that that was a dream until I found this particular movie and the other one's on the disc. In a semi I went to recover for a freight company because the driver had left it sitting there abandoned. So I got curious and I watched them. I was like, what do you guys see in this stuff anyway? It looked bootlegged and he'd written on it with a marker. I was so mad. I was angry. I saw my own face. My 15-year-old face. And my hair was bleached blonde for that wedding that I never got married at. And then I was taken to Mar-a-Lago in that situation. Still a blonde. Nobody asked me if I wanted to be blonde either. They just made me into one. Just like nobody asked me if I wanted to be involved in this stuff. They just put me there. Nobody asked me if I wanted to try whatever drug it was they put in my milk. And then kept sticking it to my foot. He just did it to me. That's illegal. Whether I was an adult or a kid, it's illegal. But being the fact that I was 15, it really was even worse. And I know you know that. So, did you hook up with your porn-making buddy because you wanted a little insurance in case I remembered anything later after I woke up? After I was back at home or whatever? Was I supposed to be taken back home? I have a memory of a certain black comedian taking me home after interrogating me, asking me questions, finding out that I was underage. So, he did right by me and you did not, Mr. Trump. He was a hero and you're a hypocrite and a jerk. So, here's what I say to the whole porn thing. And I dreamed there was a spread done on me too and on the other girls. So, here's what I say. Bring it. Show the world. Because, bring it. Hand it over. Pass it around to the news channels. Embarrass me, go for it. Because verification is a good thing. I dare you. I dare you to do it. Slander me up, Donald. Of course, even if you decide you're going to sit on it, to try and play that card, that it doesn't exist, there's dozens of people at this point since 1982 who are angry with you and fed up with the way you treated them and the way you treat people, the way they've seen you act. For publicity, you're one way, and you treat your kids another way, and treat the rest of us like something, you peeled off the bottom of your shoe. Your supporters, just like me, will eventually learn about you or get fed up with you. And like your former yes man, Cohen, and like Stormy Daniels, who recently stated that since the non-disclosure she signed has expired, she can share with the public the story that you and Cohen cooked up is not even real. It didn't happen. She didn't sleep with you. And I know the news tries to say that it's not important, but it begs the question. Who did you spend that time with? Who did you sleep with if it wasn't Stormy Daniels? Why even bring it up? Because you had to cover up the real situation, didn't you? The one with me. You and I both know it's fact. And so does God. And just like when I asked you to share the info on my real parents with me, to find out, even if you had to delegate it to somebody else, but you were in a position to know who would know that. And I told you that I basically had a file on me since I was a little kid, because almost since I was born, because I've been put in all these psych experiments and blah, blah, blah. And because my mother runs in the same circles, or used to run in the same circles in New York that you did, that Epstein did, you knew damn well already who my real father is. And instead of mailing me a Post-it note that said, I already know, here's his name, here's his number, he gave me permission to give you this, call him, or whatever. I haven't talked to him yet. You're going to have to find your own way to talk to him, but I already know. This is your dad. You instead, when you didn't make it in 2020, being elected, you went to Jean Cara, Psychic to the Stars, whose initials were the same as my mom's, JC. Because a guardian angel told me when I was making this request, being at the end of my rope, after years and years of trying to find out, I know who my real mother is, but who's my real father? Could have got here from a test tube. They didn't have that yet. Or did they? I don't know. But that doesn't matter. That's not what this situation is about. This is about that you went to Jean Cara and you both pretended that she had been with Bob. I mean, she might have slept with Bob. He slept with a lot of people. But she ain't my mama. And the 2 dates that I gave you as a possibility when I was warned not to tell you all my info, to just give just enough, you picked the wrong date. And it backfired in court. And, and then Miss Cara couldn't keep it quiet. She was in there under just her initials, under an old law grandfathered in. She was supposedly so afraid of my dad. Because she had been underage also. And then she went and did the news interview circuit in Europe. And said what her name was, her full name. And then that got back to the States and all the crap hit the fan. But December 2021. And when I saw that, the light dawned, suddenly I realized my dad, over the years, just going by Bob, would bring a little notebook like this, a pen, and pop up on me wherever I was living, East Coast, West Coast, Chicago, all the different places I've lived, and ask me to do a survey. And he'd start out with the typical survey questions, the demographics, but then he'd get a little bit extra with it, ask details that a real survey wouldn't ask. And then ask some very nosy questions, and then conclude the survey and say, thank you for your time, and start walking away. And I'd be like, hey, Bob. Almost every time after the first couple ones, I'd say, hey, Bob. What's your last name, Bob? And he'd say, just Bob, and he'd walk away. But, he's in the pleading as the defendant in that case. December 2021. And he won, but that's how I found out who my real father is. And that even though you hate it when people target your kids, sorry I was yawning while talking, but I'm also genuinely irritated with you. You're such a hypocrite. You get mad at people for going after your kids, but you went after my dad, Donald. Instead of giving me the information, you went after my dad. Because you needed campaign money for this year, 2024, didn't you? Isn't that right? That's why you did it. Just tell the truth. That's why you did this. And even though you knew that Jean Cara is not my mother, the initials were correct. Maybe you thought I didn't know what her full name was? That's why I used initials? I know what my mom's name is. I also know that she's using a new name, an identity. And she's popped in on me a few times since what went down in the mid-90s, where she had to go into hiding. And I could track her down and find her, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna let her come talk to me when she feels safe. She's still alive, though. Her mother's the reason she had to hide. Anyway, her real mother, not her adopted mother. But just Bob is my father. When I was 13, he gave me his baby spoon ring his baby spoon bent into a ring. My 13th birthday. I mean, he knows who I am. I know who he is now, finally. Should have known it, should have cut on, but I didn't. Had too many other things worrying me when he would show up. He didn't let me know he was coming, he just would show up. Anyway, you went after my dad. Yes, scumbag. And you didn't do it directly. You did it hiding behind the skirts of Jean Cara, but still, you did it. And I know, because of my special talents, that that's how you were going to get some campaign money, and you didn't, because she lost. Because she should have lost. Because she was lying. I'm not saying she was lying about having had sex with Bob. I'm saying she was lying about the rest of it. And she didn't get the dates right because... Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. That's not what I'm talking to you about. So, really, Donald? You don't want people going after your family, but you go after my family? And it wasn't even any of your business. And somehow the baby, me, from that encounter, if she had been the right JC, Joanne Cardish, somehow that didn't get brought up. You're such a freaking hypocrite. You really are, Donald. And no, I don't want in on the lawsuit. What I want is a one-on-one with my real father, finally, in a normal setting, in a normal conversation. Maybe out for coffee or dinner. So we got plenty of time to talk, catch up, properly. Not with a little flippy-doo notebooks freaking survey. But thanks to you and Miss Cara, now he thinks I'm after him too. Because I am part of the equation with that situation. Because I'm the byproduct of what happened there at the hotel. Thanks. Thanks for making an already awkward situation absolutely impossible. Just like the fallout I had to deal with after I got back from that 88 days away from home. Part of that Mar-a-Lago and in your stupid porn movies. Can you imagine? I'm 15. I don't even have a boyfriend. I've never been on a date yet. And all of a sudden the whole school is sure that I'm a porn star and a slut and a hooker and all that other kind of stuff. And some of those fathers saw some of that porn, so obviously it was released. How much money was made off of me and those other girls? I'd really like to know. How much of a kickback did you get? Inquiring minds would like to know. We were all drugged, though. You could see it on the camera when it zoomed into our faces. And again, I thought it was a dream. Do you know what I had to endure from the teen boys that I went to school with and their fathers accusing me because of that? Even though, according to their religion, they weren't supposed to be looking at that stuff anyway. I thought they were just being mean. Until 2016, when J.C. Urquhart, who is friends with my ex-husband, and they moved drugs together, and I didn't even know until after the divorce. I was that naive. His real name's Rigo. I said that in the last video. He's used quite a few names. John Demetrion, Joe Garcia, Pedro Garcia, Joe Rodriguez, sorry. Maybe the other one too. I don't know. A whole bunch of them. At least those ones with me. And now I find out his name is Rigo. Anyway, we were all drugged, all the girls. And we were marketed. And finally figured out who produced the movie, or at least that you were in on it, when I saw that portrait of you with those, is it 5 or 6 athletes? They're all black guys sitting around you smiling. You got that mean little grin on your face, like when you go after somebody, like Elizabeth Warren or I don't know, Miss Clinton. That little thing you do, a little mean little smile. But you're doing that in that picture from the 80s. And it suddenly dawned on me why you did that. Because you wanted me to see you with that mean look on your face, in case I remembered. That was just one more step you took. If I hadn't been pulled out of public school by my parents and put in their private school, which they did have other students besides me that they were tutoring, and then they turned it into a school. They didn't register properly, so I have both a diploma and a GED. So I could go to college finally. And I did research on it to see, if I got the money to start that school up and do it right, because they stole the idea out of my diary and implemented only part of it. Did it wrong, screwed up, let it go belly up after I graduated. I actually have a school ring from that. I might be the only person on the planet that has a school ring from our so-called school. I had to go to special effort to get that thing, because I graduated. And I was taking college courses before other people were taking college courses. But can you imagine me going through 4 years of these people harassing me, making jokes on me, saying horrible things? The girls got involved eventually because, they got to look good to the guys. I had no friends after that. And I got called into the school counselor's office, the attendance counselor. I told you about that, but I didn't tell you the whole story. I was threatened with juvenile detention, teen jail, because of how many days I'd missed. And I genuinely didn't think I had missed any, except maybe 1 or 2. And I genuinely had thought it was still September. Kept writing September on the paper until somebody's like, it's November. I think I was in 3rd period or 4th period by then. Half the day's over with before I realized it's November. I'm like, how did I not realize it was November? Oh, because, I was drugged and I wasn't home for 88 days. That's how. But see, it wasn't just at school. It was all over town. The mall, at church, until I found out that I wasn't born to a Christian parent. I wasn't born to Mormon parents. And I remembered the plane ride away from there when I was really tiny. Walking but not talking. I remember being there when they were typing up the birth certificate, the new one. And they decided to use the date, and that they kept saying it's Saturday. It's so good of you to be here on a Saturday. Oh, anything to help somebody, anything to help with the cause, blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you more about that later. But that's also, within the last 6 years, I've been uncovering things. And you have one kind of memory come to rise to the surface, and they start having regular memories rise to the surface. It starts to become a thing that your brain does. And I remember it in great detail. A lot of things. Even the things when I was on ketamine and I had those wispy white fogginess around my eyes. Like I was in a swimming pool with too much chlorine. Like I said last video. But I was terrified. I'm sitting there thinking I'm going to go to jail for something I didn't do. I mean, I was there, but I didn't do it because doped up. I don't have free will. I don't have freedom of choice. I think I'm dreaming. I'm thinking nothing matters in this thing. I just need to get through it, even though it's horrific and humiliating. It's just a dream, right? And then I go to school and I'm not connecting the dream, the part of it that I remembered as a dream, until later when it came back full force, just pieces. I'm not connecting that with being yelled at in the attendance counselor's office. And he also, sent me with a paper home from school for my dad to sign. I told my dad about it. Dad wouldn't sign it. I was terrified to go back the next day, but I did. You know what he said to me? I'll talk to him about it, and he chuckled like it was a funny joke. And then the next day the guy denied, calling me in the office and making me cry, get a blotchy face and clogged nose from crying so hard. Denied threatening detention, juvenile detention, not school detention. Actual jail. He denied he said anything like that. Denied that he even called me in. And I'm like, I am 15. There is no way I'm senile yet. Why is this guy lying to me? Anyway, in my opinion, the correct thing for you to do after the blubbering to God and begging him to protect you would have been to take legal custody of me right then and there and buy a townhome or an apartment or a condo or something and hire a nanny and hire a detective and go after these people. Hire a lawyer, take legal custody, and put me into this private school you were promising God you were going to put me in. You're a smart guy. You could have told Ivana, oh, well, I found this girl and was out doing such and such, and she was exposed to the weather and soaking wet or some crazy story, and found out her parents took her there and dumped her. You can make up any story. You make up stories all the time. You didn't have to do what you did. And you would have been the hero. But anyway, you had plenty of money. You had incentive and you had clout. You could have done all that. Or something similar. And you didn't. You let me go back there into my life and live with that crap. And I thought I was still a virgin. I did for a long time. But you chose to do the phony shit that you did, dragging Cohen into it as well, and Stormy Daniels. A whole bunch of other people. You got really elaborate with it, you know? It was ridiculous when I think about it. Anyway, it's going to be truly interesting to watch what God does next, because you still have not made it right. And you still keep having letters sent asking for money, like you've done since 2016, to my house, to my email. That much spam and excessive snail mail could be considered harassment, Mr. Trump. I might consider getting an attorney just for that. But at some point, you won't be able to make it right, because, you're a human being. You might die of old age, or God will just say no. You might actually end up in jail. But at any rate, with an impeachment, which makes you ineligible for any public office ever again, no matter how unfair that was, until you can get it fixed, which it doesn't look like you're going to get it fixed. And now, with a felony conviction, it's actually illegal, according to the U.S. Constitution, for you to run for office. And it's illegal for you to vote now. And constitutionally, in fact, you've been ineligible since your first impeachment to be on the ballot. And the Supreme Court is in error for saying that it's based on something that a lower-ranking Republican wanted. You were impeached. Fair or not, you've been officially impeached by the Senate and the House. And you cannot be on a ballot anywhere in this country. Just because of that. You would have to get these things reversed before running a campaign. So there goes me being your running mate, and I should have thought of that when I offered in the first video, that I would consider that something that would be, worthy of forgiveness for what happened in '82. But now, no matter how many votes you get, none of them are going to count, according to the Constitution. And someone should tell your supporters that they're riding on a dead horse in 2024. Because it is the law, and the Democratic Party will use it. And rightfully so. That's what the Constitution says. You're not even allowed to vote now because you've been convicted of a felony. And you're certainly not allowed to run for office. It is illegal what you're doing. You would have been able to witness an actual miracle, your life spinning around in a 180, and all this stuff getting resolved miraculously. Not by tricks or bribes or anything else. Miraculously resolved. But you chose to flip the bird at our Creator and refuse to make good on your word. And now I'm really starting to wonder how many others you've broken your word to, or broken promises to God regarding some of your victims, either accidental or on purpose. Because God's pretty annoyed about this right now. And that to me says either this one promise, because of the situation in '82 and the tenderness of my age, infuriates him beyond measure, or you've done this more than once. I'm going to have to ask him about that. So now you've got your own Trump Family Election Committee. I got the letter in the mail. And that tells me that maybe the RNC told you they're going to elect a new nominee, which they are allowed to do according to the Constitution. They're allowed to have another primary, and I got that too. I got one for the Democrats and one for the Republicans because I'm independent. And I'm supposed to pick one, not vote both. I had to pick one ticket and one ballot and vote on it and send it in. Because in this state, we're a mail-in ballot state. I didn't vote for it, but anyway. So, constitutionally, they are allowed to pick a new nominee when something like this happens. It's in the Constitution. Yeah, they're allowed to hold another primary. So, you do you, buddy. But you might do yourself in if you don't make this right soon. And I don't mean do yourself in like I mean, do yourself in circumstantially, situationally. You might just be painting yourself into a corner, as they say, because you refuse to fix this. And I know you remember. I know you know, Donald. I know you know. But I don't know the mind of God, and except when he shares his thoughts with me, because he sometimes does. And that's only part of his mind, what's on his mind. But I do remember the real reason that Job suffered was not because God was just being mean to him. It was because he wouldn't defend the underdog, and he had the clout and the power to do so. And I remember what happened to Peter the Apostle. But you made a promise in regards to me in that situation back in 1982, and you need to keep your promise to God. He's not happy about it, and I'm pretty sure he's talked to you about that. You need to get out of your state of denial and take care of this, Mr. Trump. You can figure it out what the equivalent to clothes, car, private school, college would be monetarily. You can figure it out. Remember, you promised this to the Creator of all things, and you can't fool him. Or you could name a sum, or you could get me a book deal, or a position, or something as restitution for what happened. And God's not going to care about whether it has gone to court, because it's in his court, in front of his throne. Rather than a judge's bench. But you need to figure out what you think would be equivalent to it. You need to make an offer to God and ask him to allow the substitution, because so much time has gone by that it would be ridiculous to do what he promised back then. I'm so much older now. I don't want to go back to college. I do not want to go back to college. That was arduous. I'm proud of myself for doing it, but come on. But either way, you must do it. And then you need to follow through, or it's the same as not doing anything. You can't just make lip service to the God of heaven and earth. You can't do that with him like you do with other people, with regular everyday humans. So either way, figure out what the equivalent would be that you think I would agree with, and that you think God would approve of, and then deliver it to me politely and with no tricks. And again, remember, Donald Trump, that I am not doing this. I don't have control of the judicial system in New York or anywhere. I'm just a regular average person that just wants to live a peaceful, comfortable life. I've always been quiet like that. With the exception maybe being a water fight or two at a family reunion, that kind of thing, but I've always been a reserved, quiet person. I just want a normal, happy life and do what I do in my house and my yard. But God is the one doing this to you. This is biblical. Look it up. Don't remember? Look it up. And he's waiting. God is waiting. You better make him an offer and follow through this time properly and politely, like I said. And not wait any longer. Because there's other things in the pipeline that they've already been talking about in the news. Things that I wouldn't have thought would be anything. And if it was me, I'd want to make it right so I could quit having problems. This is aside from the election, Donald. This is something that you did, and you know it. But anyway, I think I'm going to end it here because I think I've said enough. Yeah. You didn't believe me, and now look what happened. You better make it right because more will happen. Anyway, have a good evening. Ciao.